Legend. That's an interesting word. Great players make great coaches, period. You could be the best X and O guy in the world. If you don't have the players, forget about it.
And great players need coaches that understand the mission. Chuck Kyle is the man whose story will be told for decades to come.
Well, I was the youngest of 4 boys, okay? And I was born in Hammond, Indiana. And basically that's, not far, maybe under an hour drive from Notre Dame, okay? And I bring that up because my mother's family during the Depression would listen to the radio of the Notre Dame games, right? Now, they didn't have the money to go to the games, okay? But believe it or not, they would hop in the car, or at least this is what my mom told me. They would hop in the car on Sunday and drive to Notre Dame and just walk around. And in 1936, I think it was, my dad was on a state championship football team in Hammond, Indiana. So there's a family interest in the game that goes back generations. I can remember being a very, very little boy. And for me, I had to play up because I had 3 older brothers, and so there was no whining. If I wanted to play, I had to take my lumps. You know, if you had a little family room, there's times where it was tackle football in the family room, and you get lit up into a wall several times, but you lived with it, right? But I look back and appreciate that because I'm not the biggest person in the world. But I was always used to playing up. I went to Holy Family in Parma, and in 8th grade we won the city championship. A lot of good players were on that team, actually. Some went to Ignatius, a number of them went to Valley Forge. They had a great team that year, our senior year, and a number of guys went on to play in major college, so it just happened to be that way. But certainly we were involved in all the sports, baseball and basketball, but football was really historically part of our family. Clearly my parents wanted Catholic schools. There was just no debate about that. I totally, 100% of my life, Catholic education. So when we moved to Cleveland, my oldest brother was at that point in grade school where in another couple of years, he's going to go to high school. And my parents decided, just talking to other people who sent their sons to Ignatius, that would be a good idea. So by the time I got there, and I would sit down at a class, the teacher would go through the roster and they'd go, Kyle, give a look, because I had 3 older brothers, so hopefully they didn't leave a bad taste for this teacher. But it just was part of my family as I was growing up. So I was that little freshman and put his tie on, and it was Loyola Hall, I can remember. I walked up and there's this young male teacher, Mr. Pasco, right, who's going to teach us world history. And his first 45 minutes of St. Ignatius High School as a teacher, ironically, were my first 45 minutes of St. Ignatius as a student.
One of the things I do remember about Chuck in class was I saw in the, in the grade book, I entered, Charles Kyle. And then I'm hearing the kids calling, I hear Chico. And I said, Chico, who in the heck's, who's Chico? And then I figured that's the nickname. And then I was concerned. I was, oh geez, he's got this nickname, Chico. Maybe was that Does he want that, or is that something the kids are making? I didn't know what to make of it. That followed him all the way through, his school days here, John Carroll, and off to when he came here on the staff. But I remember kind of wondering, geez, where did that come from?
As a kid, you pretend you're a certain ball player. Well, there was a shortstop for the Chicago White Sox named Chico Carrasquel, and for some reason I thought that was a fantastic name. Right, I was a little kid. We moved to Cleveland. Guess who gets traded to the Cleveland Indians? Yeah, Chico Carrasquel. So I was like, of course. I was a little kid. I thought that was, well, of course he's moved to Cleveland. So my brothers started calling me Chico. Now, we move in, so not many people knew us. And so most of the neighborhood just called me Chico.
I went to Nazareth, and he was at Ignatius. I went to a mixer at Padua High School. He'll tell you that he saw this girl under a beam of light in the gym. That was me. So anyway, he asked me to dance, and after he left, this friend that had gone to grade school with him said, "Do you know who that was? That's Chico Kyle." And I'm like, Chico, okay. And he was my first date. He was the guy that, with a car came and picked me up and took me to a movie. I always liked high school football, luckily. So yeah, I went to probably every single game of his when he was in high school. I remember he intercepted a pass and ran it in for a touchdown. And he wasn't even a defensive player, but the coach had called him in to play defense. And my friend was next to me, and she screamed so hard that she fainted.
When Chuck was a senior and playing at Ignatius, we played Cathedral Latin in that year. Ignatius was down by almost 2 touchdowns in that fourth quarter. And Ignatius makes one of the most incredible comebacks, scoring 2 touchdowns, winning that game 21-20. If you ask Chuck Kyle as a player, which was one of the most exciting games that he was ever in, that one. And what happens 20 years later, in 1988, as now his coach, he has that most incredible game that I think most Ignatius fans will say that was one of the all-time great.